Fortune can bring wealth and danger. A young man thought he had everything: a home, some money, and a chance at comfort. But desire and jealousy do not wait. They creep in quietly until a single choice changes everything. I'm Al-Hakawati, the legendary storyteller, and tonight we follow a tale of desire, envy, and how one night can change a life forever. After the chaos surrounding the hunchback's death, as each man tried to save himself by telling his side of the story, the doctor stepped forward and claimed that his tale was stranger than them all. And the king, curious to hear it, allowed him to speak. He said that when he was young, he studied medicine in Damascus. One day, while sitting in his room, a servant from the governor's palace came to him. The servant said there was a sick young man who needed treatment, so the doctor went with him to the palace. Inside, he found a handsome young man lying on a bed, but he looked weak and pale. The doctor sat beside him, checked his pulse, and when he asked for his hand, the young man offered his left. The doctor found this strange, but said nothing. He examined him carefully and wrote a prescription. For 10 days, he visited him, and little by little, the young man grew stronger. After some time, the doctor went with him to the public baths. As the servant helped him undress, the doctor finally understood why he had offered his left hand before. His right hand was missing. Shocked, he looked closer and saw scars covering the young man's body. It was clear he had suffered greatly. The young man noticed the doctor's reaction and said he would explain everything later. They returned to the palace, ate together, rested, and then he began his story. He said he had been born in Mosul. When his grandfather died, he left 10 sons. His father was the oldest and the only one with a child. The boy grew up surrounded by his uncles, all of whom loved him as their own. As he became a young man, he once heard his uncles talking about distant cities. They began describing Cairo as a great and beautiful city, full of life and opportunity. The more he listened, the more he longed to see it, and that night, he could not stop thinking about it. A few days later, his uncles prepared to travel there. He begged his father to let him join them. After some hesitation, his father agreed. He gave him goods to trade, but warned him not to enter Cairo, telling him to stay in Damascus and sell his goods there. When he first saw Damascus, he was amazed. The city felt alive. They stayed at a large guest house for merchants and travelers, and his uncles sold his goods along with theirs, making him a good profit. Then they continued on toward Egypt, leaving him behind. At first, he lived comfortably. He rented a beautiful house at a low price and spent freely on food and pleasure. But slowly, his money began to run out. One day, while sitting at his door, he saw a richly dressed woman pass by. Without hesitation, she entered his house confidently, and he followed. She was strikingly beautiful, and he was drawn to her at once. They ate together, and she stayed the night. In the morning, she surprised him by leaving money before she left, promising to return. She came back a few days later, dressed even more elegantly. Again, she stayed the night and left him money. With each visit, his attachment to her grew, and he became less careful. One day, as she was about to leave, she said that next time she might bring a younger woman who needed distraction. He agreed at once. Then she gave him money and asked him to prepare more food for the next visit. The following evening, she returned with another young woman. He prepared food and drink for them, and as the night went on, He noticed that the second girl was even more beautiful than the first. Without realizing it, he gave her all his attention and almost ignored the first woman. From that moment, jealousy began to grow. By morning, everything had changed. The room was silent, and when he reached for the girl beside him, he found her dead. Fear took hold of him, and he searched the house, but the first woman was gone. Only then did he understand what jealousy had done. In panic, he buried the girl inside the house, hiding her jewels as well, and covered everything carefully so no trace remained. After that, he washed himself, changed his clothes, gathered what money he had left, and locked the house. He paid a full year's rent in advance, then left to join his uncles. He traveled until he reached Cairo and found them again. He stayed with them for a year, visiting the city and seeing the Nile, while keeping his remaining money hidden. When his uncles prepared to leave, he slipped away and remained alone in Cairo. 3 years passed, and gradually his money ran out. Each year, he continued paying rent for the house in Damascus until he could no longer afford it. With no choice left, he returned to Damascus. The house was still sealed, just as he had left it. While gathering his belongings, he found a jeweled necklace hidden beneath the bed. And if your curiosity is as sharp as his eyes, maybe it's time to tap that subscribe button. A few days later, with nothing left to live on, desperation pushed him into the market. He took the necklace into an auctioneer and sat quietly beside him. As the market grew busy, the sale began. The necklace was worth perhaps 2,000 dinars, but the man claimed it looked ordinary and might sell for only 1,000. The young man agreed at once, saying it belonged to his wife and was not real jewelry. That was his mistake. The market inspector grew suspicious and reported him. Guards seized him and brought him before the governor. He repeated the same story, that it was his wife's necklace and nothing of value. But the governor didn't believe him. He was beaten badly. Terrified, he admitted he had stolen it, knowing the necklace really belonged to the girl who had been killed. He was afraid that telling the truth would make him look like a murderer, so he confessed to stealing it instead. His hand was cut off, the wound sealed with hot oil, and he fainted from the pain. When he recovered and returned home, the owner told him he had to leave. He begged for a few more days to find somewhere else. During that time, he could hardly sleep. He kept thinking about how he would face his family missing one hand, and everyone believing he was a thief. On the third day, guards returned and took him again. Things had taken an unexpected turn. They explained that the necklace had belonged to the governor's daughter and had disappeared 3 years earlier. He thought he was doomed, but decided to tell the governor the whole truth and leave his fate in his hands. The governor looked at him and said to his men, "Why did you cut off his hand? This case was not solved yet." Hearing that, the young man felt hope. He explained that he wasn't a thief and had been forced to lie. The governor promised that no harm would come to him and made the market inspector pay compensation for the lost hand. The young man was finally safe. The governor then asked him to tell the full story about the necklace. He explained everything about the first girl, how she brought the second, and how jealousy had killed the second girl. The governor listened, clearly saddened, and then explained the truth. The older girl had been his daughter. She had been raised strictly, married her cousin in Cairo, and returned after his death. But she had learned bad habits and had come to the young man several times, finally bringing her younger sister. Driven by jealousy, the elder daughter had killed the younger one. When the governor heard the full story, he offered the young man his youngest daughter in marriage. She was not a full sister to the other two. He said there would be no payment, and he would treat him like a son. The young man agreed. The governor sent for the judge and witnesses. The young man married the daughter and stayed in the governor's house. The governor gave him money for his lost hand, and he was treated with respect. That same year, his father died. The governor of Mosul sent a messenger with his inheritance, and with his money, he lived well and in comfort. And this was how he lost his right hand, and how his fortune grew. After finishing his story, the doctor stayed with the governor for 3 days. When he left, the governor gave him a gift. He then traveled to that city and lived quietly until the trouble with the hunchback began. The king said the story was no stranger than the hunchbacks, yet the tailor who caused all the trouble was still alive. The king then told him he must tell a story even more surprising if he hoped to be forgiven. The tailor's story is about to begin. Could it be even stranger than the hunchbacks? We will have to find out next time. Today we saw how jealousy can destroy even the strongest hearts, and how fortune can tempt the wisest. But with courage, honesty, and patience, even misfortune can turn, slowly revealing its reward.